If you've been dreaming of having an online business for the longest time, but you keep delaying getting started, or you get started, but then you're never consistent enough to actually bring cash into your bank account, then listen up, because alhamdulillah, I've worked with hundreds of brothers to start their business. And I've been through the process of starting, delaying, and not being consistent enough on business, but then eventually going on to generate over $2 million online and being able to work on my own business full time for the last 7 years. And I'm about to explain what I know is the biggest trap that keeps brothers stuck when they want to start an online business. And naturally, I'm going to solve it for you by the end of this video. So lock in, let's get started. Bismillah. So I want you to imagine a boxer. He's preparing for a fight. He's got a big fight coming up and he's preparing, but he doesn't have a coach. He shadow boxes on his own. He goes to the gym. He trains every day. He thinks he's doing great, but there's no one there watching for his sloppy left hook. There's no one there watching his footwork from a distance. There's no one there dragging him out of bed to come and train on the days where he felt tired and didn't feel like going. When he finally steps into the ring and the bell goes, how do you think he's going to perform? Because believe it or not, it's not the type of business or the economic environment or anything that stops you. The main things that hold you back, and I know this from working with hundreds of brothers on starting a business, is number one, the doubts, the fears, the negative self-talk that you have going on here. Number two is indecision and lack of certainty in the decisions they're making, the lack of that commitment to go all in and get success. And number three is the lack of measurement, the lack of accountability, having somebody making sure you're consistent and you're showing up regularly to get this business rolling. This is actually what kills your business idea before it even begins. It's not competition, it's not tax problems, legal problems, hiring problems, nothing like that. It's actually these deeper, more psychological elements that determine whether you get that business off the ground or not. And what does this mean for you? It means if you never overcome those doubts, the indecision, the uncertainty, the lack of consistent action taking, then what's the result going to be? You're going to wake up one day at 42 years old with 2 or 3 kids, living a very average life. You never started that business. You never were able to work remotely from anywhere in the world. You were never able to live in that country or have your kids experience this stuff. And ultimately, your kids grew up with a very boring role model who was very average. Which for those watching this channel, I know that's your worst nightmare. That is my worst nightmare until today, being average. So the question is, how do you fight back against these mental barriers that stop us from just doing what we know we have to do consistently enough to start bringing in $10, $100, and then tens of thousands of dollars, inshallah? Firstly, how to beat the doubts, the things that happen between you and yourself that stop you from going all in and taking aggressive action on starting your business. You'll be tweaking a logo for weeks. You'll be playing with setting up a company, registering a company, buying a domain, setting up a website for weeks and weeks. Meanwhile, when people ask you, how's it going? Why haven't you done too much yet? You tell them, oh, it's a process. I'm working on it. But deep down, the voice in your head is telling you, what if it doesn't work? What if they see it and they think it's rubbish? What if no one buys? What if they buy and then I can't fulfill on what I promised them? These are the doubts sucking you away from your dream of having that online business. So what do? You hide behind extra research, extra preparation. I've seen this too many times. And the solution here is very simple, but very few take it seriously. And it works because you can't outthink fear. You can't logically deal with these irrational voices in your head. You need someone else to come in and question your very crazy thoughts that you know logically are crazy and they're holding you back. But in the moment, you really rationalize and justify them. You need a coach to come in and to question your weird framing and thinking. They need to say, oh, so you're waiting for it to be perfect? And then you say, well, not perfect. Well then, okay, how close to perfect does it need to be? And those are the kind of questions that make you realize that you're thinking completely irrationally, and it snaps you back into reality, realizing that a website or whatever you're working on will never actually be perfect. Perfection is for Allah. And it forces you to decide on an arbitrary point where you're going to be done with it. It's good enough, it's done enough. And you can move forward and actually make progress and make money with the business. That's what it's for. So a good coach doesn't tell you what to do. They ask you questions that make you realize that what you're doing and what you want to do are not in alignment. And when they question it enough and ask you the right questions carefully, they're able to tease out the reality and make you realize for yourself that you're not going down the right track. And the beauty of it is that you come to the conclusion yourself. So having a coach is one solution for sure. But then there's something else which will help you a ton overcome these doubts, and that is having a mentor. A mentor is not like a coach. A mentor is simply someone who is ahead of you in that objective that you've got, starting an online business. So somebody who's made a decent amount of money from an online business, maybe a similar type of online business to you, and they can tell you ahead of time that you're doubting this because XYZ. And it's normal that you doubt that, but you just have to push back. And they can tell you from ahead of time that this is normal, those doubts are normal, you just have to ignore it. They can tell you the fear never fully goes away. You just have to learn to ignore it for long enough to make real progress. The next big mental barrier, indecision, uncertainty. We all crave it, but it's the truck that drives your dreams to the graveyard. Every move feels very high stakes. Should I sell to these types of people? Should I offer coaching once a week, or should it be twice a week? Every single decision you question, and you never come with a certain firm conclusion. And because you don't have clarity, you actually prefer to do nothing. So there's no doubt about it why you're not making progress and making real money from the business. When you do nothing, it's the worst thing you could possibly do. Yes, it's even worse than doing something and failing miserably. Because when you fail miserably, you learn at least. You know, a baby, when it's learning to walk, it needs to walk and trip a little bit and will fall and hit its head in order to learn how to balance, how to keep straight, how not to fall backwards. It's in the mistakes and the failures that it learns. But if you don't take any action, if the baby never got up and tried to walk, it would never learn to walk. So if you do nothing, you get no wins, but also you get no failures, which means you get no feedback loop to then improve, which is why it's the death of businesses. And this is where a coach can transform everything. With a short discussion with the coach, they can give you clarity. They can slice through the irrationality, the paralysis, and they can say, okay, what about this or this? Pick one. They force you to pick it in the moment. These are types of things that we don't do with ourselves. But when somebody else is empowered by you and you want them to help you with this, they can push you in that sense to give you confidence, make clear decisions, and leave that call with them feeling clarity. They'll remind you that you don't need perfect decisions, you just need committed ones. And they'll understand frameworks like prototyping, where you try something out that you don't have certainty about, you try it for 30 days, gather data, and make further decisions from there. It's all in the spirit of keeping momentum going. And likewise, a mentor can also help. They've been there and done it before, and so they can tell you what works and what doesn't work. They could also tell you the decisions that are not such a big deal, and so you don't need to spend weeks trying to decide on them. Just make a decision and move on. You know, they say money loves speed. And so if you spend weeks in uncertainty and indecision, you're just not loving money. And then we have maybe the biggest barrier, the most common barrier, which is not working consistently enough on the business for it to ever get traction. If you want to kick the ball and get it in the top left corner, you might have to practice and do that 100 times to succeed once. But if you only take 20 kicks at it, you're never going to get it in and you'll be wondering why you suck. The truth is you just weren't consistent enough. You didn't put enough reps in. And this happens with business a huge amount of times. This is the cycle. You get on YouTube, you watch a few amazing videos that open your eyes to a new opportunity, a new business, a new marketing method. And you really watch it eagerly. You watch 2-3 videos about it and you leave it thinking, yeah, I'm going to implement that. That'll be amazing. So you go on your laptop and you start working on it and implementing it on your idea. And then it gets a little bit difficult. Maybe you leave it for the day, you come back next day, and it's just a bit tricky. And you start to question whether it's actually worth it, whether it's going to work in the first place. And that resistance ultimately causes you to just procrastinate on taking more action. So you leave it. This is how lack of consistency keeps your business on a Google Doc and never in bringing money into your bank account. And we've talked about how coaches can help you, and they do for sure. And we've talked about mentors and how they can help you, and they do for sure. And now I want to introduce you to the superhero of the team, which is an accountability coach. You see, accountability is one of the most powerful forces in starting a business. It's having somebody give you that positive peer pressure to do what you say you want to do. You know, Tony Robbins, he says that one of the most painful feelings for a human is to be out of alignment with their identity. One of our core needs as a human is to feel that who we are and what we do are aligned. And when you say you're going to do something to a coach and you don't do it, that's a very painful feeling. So having somebody holding you accountable every single week is very powerful in keeping you consistent. You claim to them every week on a Monday, for example, that I'm going to do this task on my business this week. If by next week you've not done it yet, it's the day before, trust me, you'll work overtime to get those tasks done. And ultimately, who benefits? You and your business. You could call it shame, you could call it fear, but ultimately this positive pressure is immensely powerful. And frankly, it's one of the things that got me to go full time on my business, start making thousands of pounds a month into my bank account, and eventually take that up until we did 100K revenue in 1 month. All because I had people acting as my accountability coaches, keeping me honest and making sure that what I said I was going to do, I did. And that turned actions into money. And that's the beauty of this. I can talk about this because I've done it. I started 4 businesses before I ever got success with one. I was 25 years old, hadn't made much money from any jobs. I did very basic jobs, even though I had a master's degree from UCL. And I really was worried and scared of getting stuck in that office 9 to 5 kind of life. I really wanted to do business. And after taking the plunge and compromising, going and getting an office job because I just really needed the money, I got fired. But that was the best thing that happened to me. I linked up with 2 brothers that I'd done business with before, and we decided to start a company together. Now, the power of this wasn't that we could bring all of our thoughts and ideas together. That was cool. But what really changed the game for me anyway, was that they were my coach, mentor, and accountability partner all in one. And all of a sudden I realized that my other businesses hadn't succeeded, not because of the type of business, not because of the strategies were wrong, but it was because I wasn't taking enough action. I wasn't consistent. I was letting the doubts get at me, and I had a lot of uncertainty and lack of confidence. But working with these brothers as my coach, mentor, and accountability coach changed everything. And that's where I started making real money. What did that let me do? It let me work remotely from anywhere in the world. I started making thousands of pounds every month, which allowed me to get married as well, build my household from this real internet money. And then I moved from the UAE, where I was living, to Turkey as well. And since then, I've been able to do Hajj. I've been able to do Umrah multiple times. I've been able to travel to Morocco, to Malaysia, all because of these 3 things: accountability, coaching, mentorship, helping me overcome these 3 barriers that hold you back. So you got to fix them, bro. Your doubts, your uncertainty, and your lack of consistent action taking. And on that topic of doubts and negative self-talk, it's one of the most powerful things keeping you stuck. And it needs its own video to explain what those thoughts are, why they stop you, and then the solution for how to solve them. So I made a whole video on how to get past your doubts. Go watch it right now. It's on screen there. Go click it.